This is going to be a fun little video. This is my 98 S10 pickup truck that has had an ongoing problem for probably 2 years. Let's see if I can demonstrate what that is. Put a key in it. The dash likes to come and go. You see all this down here? That blinks out a lot of times, and I don't know why.
This news is for you. The CDC now recommends you get vaccinated.
Let's turn you off. See if it'll start. Well, it's on now. But if you're driving down the road and hit a bump, a lot of times these two displays will go out and you hit another bump and they'll come back on. And of course, they're never on when you need them to be. So there's a number of videos on YouTube that talk about problems that these things have with the circuit board that all this is mounted to. That there's ribbon connectors, I think, that goes across these two vacuum fluorescent displays that attach to the circuit board, and the solder joints in those go bad. Well, I've pulled this thing out half a dozen times and looked at those solder joints, and they're not bad. And it's driving me freaking nuts. So one day about a week ago, I was in this truck working on the stereo right here because this came out of my son's Miata that he bought. The guy that had this had totally destroyed it. Screwed up the USB plug in the back of it. It didn't work. Had a DVD jammed in it. It was all screwed up. Put a subwoofer in the trunk of the car. Didn't mount it correctly. Closed the hood on it and closed the trunk on it and wrinkled up the trunk. So my son bought that car cheap and we fixed all that, and we pulled this thing out of it, and I completely disassembled it and fixed everything in it. But one of the things I neglected to do was to tie off the parking brake line to ground. And once you put, I think it's 5 phones that you can have connected to this thing through Bluetooth, you can't put any more unless you clear them out. And you can't clear them out if the parking brake's not set. And if the wire that goes into the back of this unit doesn't have the parking brake set, you can't attach another phone to it. So that was a problem. So I pulled this thing out to fix all of that. Anyhow, back to this. Oh, see, dash is out now. If I hit it, sometimes it'll come back. Well, I'll show you what it was on this truck. What you have to do is pull all this out. And I've already taken screws out of it. You got to drop this panel right here. There are 4 7mm screws in it. There's one here, one here. There's 2 more down in the bottom. I left the 2 out of the bottom because I've had this thing off and on so many times I could scream. Anyhow, take those out. Then you have another 7mm screw here, another 7mm screw there. And then you can pop the bezel off of it. Now this bezel is in bad shape because this truck is old. I can pop this thing off. Maybe I should have been a little better prepared. Let's see. There we go. That comes off. Now this comes out. They're just little tabs. Now what you have to do, I'm going to turn this thing off, and then back over there, you got to pull that gear shift lever down and drop that. See if I can get the sun shining straight through the window. Set the parking brake so you don't back into anybody's car that's parked behind you. Pull this thing out. Now you've got connectors in here that you have to take out. You got a connector here And the connector here. I'll have to put the phone down while I do that. I can't do it one-handed. Okay. Sometimes you have to take a screwdriver and push that little tab in so you can get it out of the connector. And then this one, just squeeze that in and that lock will release and it'll pull out without any problem. Okay, now, let me see if I can still get this thing out one-handed. There we go. Now, up there is that connector. I'm going to wiggle that connector and watch that display. Can you see it? That's the problem. So, there's two more 7mm screws there that allow me to pull this out. I'm going to pull this out. I'm going to take that connector out. I'm going to depin it and try to tighten up the connections between all of the pins in that and the pins that go into this guy. I think that's the problem. This truck is, what, it's a 98? What is it, 26 years old? 27 years old? Something like that. So, corrosion builds up on these things after a while. This thing's got 233,000 miles on it. It's been around a while. I've had it for, oh gosh, 20 years. Anyhow, let me get this dash out and get that thing disconnected, and we'll do some depinning and tightening down the terminals. I ordered off eBay another connector, thinking that I would splice this one in. But when I figured out how to depin this thing and found out how the terminals might not be gripping correctly, I'm going to try to do that first and not have to splice in a new connector. But I'm going to give this a shot. Actually, there are four. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. And one down there. All of them 7mm. Take those loose and your display will come out. Okay, those four are out. Let's roll this thing out. I'm going to, I keep hitting buttons on this deadgum phone I'm not supposed to. Turn the key off. Then I'm going to pull that connector out of there like that. Now let's see if I can get this thing out. That comes out and sits over there. Now I've got this connector here. I'm going to depin it. What you have to do, you have to take this gray lock out and that blue lock out. That holds the pins in. I'm going to do this one side at a time. In the truck, I've got this other one. I'm going to show you how to do it, but I'm not going to show doing this in the truck because there may be some bad words. I'm going to video color codes in these things. And I got my shop kitty out here with me. I don't know where he went. Darwin, where'd you go, buddy? He's got to make a cameo appearance. I'm not sure where he went. I hear him out here squeaking at me. He's always in the middle of whatever I'm doing. I must have scared him. Okay. Once I get these depinned and back in, I'll flip this thing around and do this side with that blue lock. Okay, this right here is what you're trying to do. You got to get this piece off right here. Without stabbing yourself in the finger. Okay, that comes off. Now there's a little tab in here. I don't think you can see it. Maybe, I wonder if I can get enough light on there to show that. See that little metal tab in that large square hole? You got to stick something down in there, because inside that square hole, there's that metal tang has got the little locking tab. And what you do, this is just a little jeweler's tool that's flat, and put it on the side away from where the thing is laying on the thing, and push down. Push that thing down. After you say a bunch of bad words, it will come out. And you can imagine doing this in the truck with this wire. Staying connected is a royal pain. There. You can see what that locking tab looks like. This right here is what you're trying to push down by sliding this thing in. This side is what grips the pin terminal. So what I'm doing, taking a pair of needle nose and just snugging that down a little bit so that it grips the pin tighter. I'm going to see if I've got any square pins that'll be about the size of what's on the display, and then do the drag test on it. Okay, just for grinses, I brought this gauge cluster in. Let's see if I can measure the size of these pins. I need to get my up-close glasses so I can see what the heck I'm doing here. Okay, now I've got them. Okay, let's zero this thing out. Zero. Can I get in here? Yep. Those are 42 thousandths. What is that in metric? 1 millimeter. 1 millimeter would be 039, wouldn't it? Do that again. No, 42. Okay, so those are 42 thousandths. I need to find something that's about 42 thousandths. You know, when I squeeze that thing in like that, that's got really good retention on that pin right there. On these, yeah, that one would work. But what I want to do is find something that's about 42 thousandths. What gauge wire would that be? Is that 42 thousandths or 4 thousandths? That's 42 thousandths. Let me go see if I can find something that's about that size. Okay, I found some 1mm drill bits, which should be about the same size as those pins. 0.39, that's about it. So once I pull those things out and squeeze them together, I'll do the drag test. That's got really good drag on it right there. What I've decided to do, I got these little needle nose right here. I'm going to go in, squeeze the center of these right here from top to bottom, and also side to side like that. Put some more pressure on those guys. Something I noticed when I pull these things out, see this little locking tab right here? When you're using something like this, you slide it in there. You can push it over to one side, and it might not want to go back into the square hole. So you got to make sure you got that locking tab fit up correctly. That looks like it's a little too close to the barrel of the connector there. And see if I can scoot that bad boy over just a little. There we go. Now, make sure he's up so when I slide him in, he'll actually lock. And all of the metal tabs are on the bottom side here. So this has to go in like this. Slide that guy in until that locking tab, and that locking tab went in. Okay, so I got to go out there and do every one of these and test them, the drag test, with just 1mm drill bit. And let me tell you, it's a pain to do it in the truck, but I'm going to give it a shot. I'm not going to record that because there'll probably be some bad words flying around. But anyway, that's how you do it. I'll show you the results. Okay, I've been through the whole thing now. Depin them all, squeeze them together, put them back in. One thing I've found is that when you put the depinner in this side of it, before you push it in, if you'll take the wire, push it down inside there and force it this way, the depinner will release that tab a little better. I think what was happening to me originally was I would push the depinner in and it was actually pushing the terminal back, and the end of that tab was hanging up on the plastic and not going down. So when I pushed it forward and put the depinner in, it was able to go down, and then it would pop right out. So I'm gonna go get the display or the gauge cluster and plug this puppy. Oh, the other thing I did, I cut this tape back right here. I need to retape that before I put this back in. I'm trying to get these wires out. That's a little bit tricky right there. Let me go get the gauge cluster. We're going to give this a shot. Before you put this back in there, you might want to hit this with some good old Sprayway glass cleaner and a microfiber. Oh, that smells good. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I think I'll clean my phone with it too. Okay. Well, let's see if we can do this. I'm going to have to put the phone down so I can put that in there, and I'll turn it back on when I get ready to turn it on. Okay, rock and roll. If it doesn't work this time, then it may be where that connector turned. There we go. Well, I'm jiggling that connector, And everybody's staying on. I think we're good. I think we're good. Sounds like my son is home. So, good deal. What'd you bring me?
Got myself some lunch.
You did? You're on camera.
Oh, what are you doing?
I'm fixing the display of the gauges in my truck. I think I got them fixed.
That's good.
So now I can actually see what gear I'm in.
It's not like flashing you like it used to?
I hope not. Not yet.
That's good.
Where's Darwin, the shop kitty? Okay, let's give it a shot. The bezel and everything is all back in. Everybody's up and playing. Cool. Looks like that worked. So now I'll go in and show how I depend those things a little easier. It got a lot quicker as I learned a little trick, as most things do. Once you kind of get into the rhythm of it, things just start falling into place and it gets easier and easier and faster. Okay, this is the little trick that I learned while I was doing this and before all the bad words. If you're taking one of these terminals out, take the wire, push it into the connector, you take your depinning tool, run it in, push down, and it releases real quick like that. I was fighting the thing. I think what I was doing before, when I was putting the depinning tool in, I was actually pushing this terminal back, and it was running into the bottom of the hole. And this little locking tab right here was hanging up on the back side of the plastic. So once I figured that out, it went real fast. And put these guys back in. They only go one way. And these things fit down next to the wire when you push them in. And that locks them in place. So you can't push them out. I could freaking hold on to stuff. Just put it right in there. Put that in. Good to go. Just to go over again what I did for the drag test. Let me turn this light on here. I would take these little needle nose and I would squeeze right in the middle there just a little bit. I would squeeze in the middle here just a little bit. And then take a 1 millimeter drill bit and do the drag test. That's got real good retention. Now 1 millimeter is 0.039, and the pins that are in here are actually on the display on the gauge cluster measured 0.42. So if you got good drag here, you're going to get real good drag on the pins in that connector. So I'm done with this project. It works. I've got a spare connector. I'm a happy camper so far. I couldn't make it screw up. So we'll see how it goes long term. Peace out.